Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So, today we are going to be featuring the one and only Trish Bear. But before we go there, I have a little bit to tell you about her. So, Trish actually founded a company called I-ology a little over 16 years ago. It's a web development company, does different web services, and if you take a minute to do the math on that, you'll figure out two things. One is that she must have started it when she was 12, right? Clearly. The other one is that she was actually building a company around the internet well before a lot of us even knew what to do with the internet. We knew that there was a browser and something like that, right? So she's not only created a business, was kind of one of the pioneers here in the Valley creating a business supported by the web, but she also has sustained that business for 16 years, which is no small feat as well, as any of us that have been in business know. Give her a hand. Trish Bear, come on up and have a seat. All right, well, like I said, at Startup Grind, we like to know a lot about the person behind the story. So tell us a little about your family and where you grew up. Let's start there.
Okay, we're going back that far. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in Long Island, New York, a very Italian Catholic family. Lots of pasta on Sundays. Very traditional family. So we were in New York for the majority of my life. My early childhood, moved to Phoenix right before I started high school.
It was real similar to New York, I'm sure.
Very similar, except everyone talked very different. Just a very traditional home, I guess you could say.
Okay, all right. Do you remember as a kid what you wanted to be when you grew up?
The only thing I remember is in 7th grade, I said I wanted to be president.
Oh.
I turned out to be a president, just not of the United States. So,
well done.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you remember what your first job was?
Absolutely. So I was actually an ice cream scooper at Swenson's.
Ooh.
And I had to know how to make all the sundaes.
Do you still have those skills?
I still could recite the recipes, to be honest. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Very good. Have you always loved techie stuff? I mean, what kind of got you moving into that direction with things? Ice cream to techie, I mean, that's a little bit of a jump.
It's a little bit of a jump, yes. Well, really after college, I was working in property management, and only because I wanted a cheap apartment when I was going to school. And right when I graduated, I had gotten a promotion with that company, and I was a district supervisor over many apartment complexes in Scottsdale. And my brother actually was working for a small startup internet company, and he said, you know, this internet thing could be really cool. And I thought, well, I'm ready to try something new, and so I jumped on board with a very small startup.
Wow, very good. So thanks to the brother there, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right. And then, I don't know, like were you also an early adopter personally? Like, did you kind of connect with the internet personally? Or was it kind of more just falling into focusing on it through that job opportunity?
Well, really at the time, the web just became commercial. So no one really knew much about the internet, including myself when I took the job. Didn't do a lot of research. And it was actually, this makes me sound really old, but it was actually a small internet service provider, and we were selling dial-up accounts to business owners for $19.99 a month.
Wow.
And there was like 10 employees there, and I had to call on business owners, and I would bring them in and say, oh, here's our server closet, and I would open a hall closet, and there were modems blinking, and there's an oscillating fan blowing, and I was like, here's where you connect to the internet. And I was selling that for $19.99 a month. So, and actually business owners thought I was a little crazy.
Oh, they did.
A lot of times the question was, well, why would I need to email someone outside of my company? Because intra-office email was what people used at the time, and why wouldn't I just fax them instead of emailing them? So,
wow, different world.
Yeah, and that's within our lifetime. I'm not that old, but it is pretty amazing to think how far that technology has come. But you know, the web had just become commercial, so there was a handful of websites on the internet, and I had a business degree and a business background, and I just saw the power of what it was going to be. So that got me excited about technology. Prior to that, I mean, I carried a beeper and didn't have cell phones. Like, really? I'm not that old, right? But yeah, so I just thought it was amazing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. I distinctly remember telnetting and typing in domain names and like Nike.com and Budweiser.com and thinking, I can't believe these companies haven't bought these domains yet. You know, so
Wow.
yeah, it was interesting.
Pioneer. I told you guys. Pioneer. This is pretty cool. Good. All right. So, well, where was the bridge from being at that company to starting Iology?
So I was at that company for about 7 months and really started getting some success in selling not only internet access but also websites at the time, which, you know, you're talking like 3 or 4 pages on the web. There was a larger company in town called PrimeNet that really liked to steal from the small companies, and they called on me, and I went and met with them, and they had about 30 employees. They were a little bit bigger, and they were a larger ISP, and they recruited me to their commercial services division, so I was one of the first 30 employees there. And there I spent 2.5 years building up the commercial services division, which was about a $2 million division.
Wow.
And it was all internet connectivity, so T1s, DS3s, it was commercial websites, commercial hosting, and some level of affinity programs for like associations and stuff. So a really exciting time. The company really exploded. We merged with 2 other companies during that time. Netscape was one of our big customers, and Playboy was one of our big customers.
Oh, crazy.
And the thing that I missed as starting as a very entrepreneurial company, and when we got larger and we were filing for IPO, is we no longer were focused on the customers. It was really about the numbers. And I just really felt my last, I guess, 6 months there that I wasn't in alignment with the direction the business was going in. And so actually over a glass of wine with a very close friend of mine, she asked me, you know, where do you see the opportunity to be? And I said, I really think that businesses are throwing money at the internet, but they have no strategic plan. They're just spending money. And she said, well, do you think you can help them? And I said, I really do. I think if I learn about their business, I can then apply my knowledge of the internet and where this is all going and help them build a strategic plan. And she said, well, you should do that. And I'm like, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to start a business. And
then the wine kicked in.
By the second bottle, I was like, I'm starting a business, and I did. I went and resigned the next day. I had about $2,000 in the bank, and I got some business cards printed out of a room in her house. And I remember sitting there with the phone and my new computer, and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not getting a paycheck. Like, I better get in motion. So.
That's a true entrepreneur, right? It's true. Well, very good. So then what did you do for those first clients? Was it web design initially?
It was actually just the plan. So I call it discovery work, which, you know, my company now does in a much macro way, but at the time it was going in, learning about their business, identifying where the opportunity was for them, you know, outlining a plan for them, and then basically handing the plan off. So they'd pay me to develop the plan, and I would say, here's 3 companies that can do your website, and here's their kind of pros and cons. Here's 3 companies that can host it. Here's pros and cons, and good luck. And then they would hire a company, and a few months later they would call me back and say, it's not going well, will you come help us? And so I started project managing, and I use that term loosely because I was not a good project manager, but I started managing the projects, and then I really saw an opportunity of getting my own kind of contractors together and executing on the plans myself. And so the business grew substantially in those first 2 years. I started as a sole proprietorship, and then in 2000 became an S Corp.
All right. And you, I mean, you don't just build like the brochure websites. We're talking about some pretty big websites that have a back end that helps them manage their business too.
Yeah.
So
it's evolved to that. Absolutely. Yeah. Operational efficiency is a key piece. Integrating their back end systems.
Very good. Her company, I didn't mention this earlier, was listed as one of the 50 fastest growing tech companies at one point. Like, she's gotten a lot of industry awards and local awards for creating something that's able to do some pretty cool things in that field. All right, so let's see here. Did you ever consider, from just a business like logistics standpoint, did you ever consider taking on a partner in business? Why or why not?
Actually, multiple times.
Yeah?
Looking back, yeah. The first person that I talked to about it was my kind of lead designer at the time. And she was wonderful, and we were doing really good work together. But when we sat down to talk about what that might look like, I realized that really the sales and the bringing in of the customer and the servicing of the customers and everything outside of the design aspect still would be my primary responsibility. And so, you know, we talked about it a lot, and she actually contracted with me for quite a bit of time after that, but it just it didn't feel equitable to me at the time. So that was probably the first experience. You know, then there was a time when I had people who were coming and offering money to invest in the business, which was really exciting. But frankly, I didn't want anyone telling me what to do, which is why I probably said no back then.
Also an entrepreneur trait, huh?
Yep, a little stubborn. But and I think those were the right decisions at the time. But interestingly enough, and I'm sure we'll get to this, but I've changed my model completely in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. It's pretty cool.
So built the business, grew exponentially every year, and then the recession hit, and it was a really rough time. Had to go through a couple rounds of layoffs, probably my worst days ever.
That's tough.
As a business owner, because you're not just letting go of even B players at that time, you're letting go of fantastic people. And I had my speech all prepared, and I knew exactly what I was going to say, and I completely cried through the entire thing. Aww. It was just a very difficult time. You know, not being able to pay people, vendors, you know, but everybody at that time, I think everyone was going through it to some extent. And so it's a very character building experience, because as long as you're communicating, people were wonderful. They really worked with us, and we worked with them, and, you know, you make it through that time. But coming out of that, I really kind of was second guessing where I wanted to go with the business. I contemplated selling it at one point, got pretty far down the aisle at one point, got cold feet. And I actually decided I was going to put the deal on hold for a week, and I went about my week as if the transaction had happened. And so if this was a reality, what would my day look like now? And what I came to the realization is that it wasn't for me, that I wouldn't be able to give them what they really wanted from the transaction. I probably would have never earned my earnout. I wouldn't have met their expectations. And I loved the freedom and flexibility that ownership provided me. So I thought, okay, well, what do I do now? And I thought, I need to reinvent my business. And so I looked at our services and said, what do I love about the business? What don't I love about the business? And then I looked at how can I create a culture and a company that people want to work for. I just think that the generation of today, they're so smart, they're so entrepreneurial, and they want flexibility, they want adaptability, they want ownership, they want responsibility, and they want to focus on doing great work. So I thought, okay, how can I create that, you know, and build out basically a model where they can gain ownership over time. So if they help produce the right result, then they get, you know, high rewards for that. So I thought that sounds like my idea of a really good time. So I reinvented the business with that model, and we've been implementing that model for the last couple of years. And it's really, really fun to see other people shine and kind of taking the business to the next level.
That's really cool. That's unusual. That's neat. So what would you say, back to kind of the early years, what would you say were some of your biggest challenges? Like, I know there's a lot of people that are in places not unlike Gangplank that are building web design firms that have a real passion to contribute to bringing together bringing quality websites to business owners. And as they bridge from that foundational level of business into something that's going to be able to attract some of the larger clients or be able to even handle them from a capacity standpoint. What was your experience, and what kind of advice do you have for people that are trying to kind of make that transition with their company? I mean, now your company, you do the websites for all the hospitals and a lot of different places that are not small websites.
Well, I think some of the difference in that, I transitioned. I was some level of a knowledge expert when I started the business, but really at the point when I started growing the business, I'm more the business side.
The business girl.
I'm the finance person. I'm the person that knows how to run the business.
That's so important, though.
No longer that knowledge expert. And I think to grow a business, you either have to expand above being a knowledge expert, or you have to bring in people who can really run the business.
That's true.
So, and I think knowing what your end game, what you're trying to accomplish, I think that when you're young and driven, which is such a wonderful attribute, and I've been there, bigger, better. You just think bigger is better. And what I realized looking back after the recession was that when I got to a certain size, I had less touch with my customers. My margins were shrinking. My HR problems were growing. Like all of the things I didn't love about the business became more a part of my job. And so when I reinvented it, I reinvented it with purpose. Like, I want to do the stuff I love to do every day, and I'm going to put people where they fit best, and we're going to collaborate and grow the business in a smart, methodical way. So it's not about just exponential growth, but about smart, purposeful growth. So,
Nice.
so I think that what I would say is just know your area of expertise and where you enjoy, not just what you're good at, but what do you love to do about the business, because it's easy to lose that, I think, along the way.
It's true. Let your passion guide you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So Iology has a culture. I mean, you can see it in everything. Your physical space is gorgeous. It's Scottsdale Quarter, and I mean, you can sense it. You can see it. There's a way that you've done things. What was the process of creating a company culture, and how did you implement it?
It's interesting. At the beginning, it was words I put into a presentation. It's like, here's who we are. And then when we went through the reinvention process, I really pulled together the team, and they really led that exercise. So it's like, who do you think we are, and what do you want to embrace, and what parts about the business really resonate with you? What makes you come into work every day? And it's just interesting how over time, even though we've morphed and changed over 16 years, quality work is what every person that's ever worked for me loves about what they do, which is part of our brand. It's that we do quality work. We never do just crap work. None of the people that have ever worked for me will allow that to be the case. They're just not complacent. They're highly driven. They want to do great work for great customers. I think over time we've refined that to identify what great customers look like, because you don't get to do great work for all people if they're not great customers. So it's like that aligning values of your client with your business as well. But the short answer is, I think the team really creates that culture. It's not even me anymore. It's just who they are, and they create the environment, and they create the company every day.
Do you suppose that's why you've been able to make it so strong there, I would imagine, since they were involved in creating it?
Yeah. They're much smarter than me. They're the business side.
I heard a quote recently, a smart CEO makes sure they're always the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
Hiring the people,
yeah.
right? Very good. I'm not calling you dumb, by the way. She's really smart. Okay, so how do you think your employees would describe you?
There's a couple
Besides
right there,
smart.
John, looking at John like. I would say driven, determined, open, transparent, and inclusive.
It's good
and
stuff.
maybe demanding sometimes, high expectations. But it's funny because I think they're harder on themselves than I probably ever could be.
Nice.
So,
well, good, as it should be. Good. And so what have you learned, I would say, from 15, 16 years ago to now about yourself as a leader? I mean, you talked about having gone from an operator to an owner role, which is so important. But in addition to that, being a leader for a company, I mean, is that something that came really naturally to you, or is that something that you studied? At what point did you really feel like you came into that role?
God, I'm still working on it.
Are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every day. I mean, I think that's just part of being human. I think it's just, you're always trying to evolve. And I do think the first time I grew the business, before what I call my reinvention stage in the business, it was so much brute force. I mean, I was just so determined, and I worked 80 hours a week, and, you know, people were with me, but it was more hard driving. You know, I think, you know, since then I've gotten married, I had a family, I've had to realize that I have to empower people and give them space, and I want quality of life. I think they deserve quality of life. So now it's just, my style is a lot more, I'm not gonna say laid back, because we still have a lot of goals, but it's just more patient and more diligent. So, yeah, that's my current evolution.
We'll take
Stay
it.
tuned.
We'll take it. All right. So,
and I will say I do 360 reviews that are anonymous twice a year with the staff.
Wow.
It covers every facet of the business, including critique about my leadership and what I'm doing well and what I'm not doing well. And I do it twice a year. And I think something they really appreciate is I take that to heart, and I implement change from their suggestions and ideas out of that. So I really want to know, like, how am I doing? What can I be doing better? What do you love about the company? What do you think we can improve? And I think people seeing those ideas truly come to fruition is exciting.
Yeah,
So.
Well, that's a great quality. Nicely done. Okay, so switching gears a little bit. Again, back to kind of helping other people that are building web development companies become a company. Like you said, I mean, it's sometimes it's about creating a lifestyle business. You don't have to become the next mega something, and that's okay. If you're living your passion, you're making an income, all that good stuff. But in addition to that, what would you say to web development companies that are trying to do what they would, through their eyes, feel is marketing? Marketing is kind of the thing that most small business owners come to and feel like they're hitting their head against the wall. Their way to reach out to prospective clients and, you know, win that client over, both finding the prospects and then also winning them over. What have you learned throughout your journey that you could give to them as advice in those areas?
God, I'm such a tough person to ask that question to, because really the greatest form of marketing I've done is focus on doing really great work and then getting PR for that work.
Okay.
So
No, that's a strategy. So
and you know, networking. I
Relationships.
really did. Yeah, I did.
So you're telling people to come to Startup Grind, right?
Clearly. But yeah, just networking events and meeting people and getting the message out that we did great work. But you know, I can't think of a time we ever really launched a marketing campaign. That's terrible that I'm saying that. But I just think that we focused on more, you know, telling our story through public relations.
And did you use a PR firm to help you with that, or did you chase down PR opportunities, or did they just kind of happen?
I did use PR teams, small teams, from time to time, really to write the content. But I have to say, because I was female business in a very male-dominated field,
that's true.
I didn't have to work that hard at PR. And I wasn't out touting, I'm a female, look at me. You know, It's just that because I think papers felt that it was a unique story, they would do PR on us.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so where do you see things going in your industry over the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh, if I could answer that question. We
Mobile,
are
right?
But yeah, we are. Yeah, mobile, exactly. We've gained a lot of expertise in the healthcare vertical. So we deal a lot in EPHI, and everyone goes through HIPAA training on a regular basis, and we have all the internal controls. We have a HIPAA compliance officer. So we are really wrapping our arms around where web technologies are going for the healthcare space, and it's huge because everything's going electronic, and there's so much regulation around that. So we probably have more experience in that particular field than anything, but in terms of where the industry is going, that is such a tough
That's okay. Well, that's
question.
Along the lines of that vertical, what do you recommend? Like, having someone choose a vertical to play in, do you recommend that as a strategy from a business perspective? Or should they try and be everything to everybody, or focus in on an area?
I think an area of specialty can be can be a strong suit, but diversification is also pretty key to sustainability.
So both.
So absolutely, because we were very strong in hospitality out of the gate. We worked with a lot of national parks, and they were some of the national contracts I got my 4th year in business. And but thank goodness we had some diversification, because when 9/11 happened, that all changed. So I do think that being somewhat diversified is a good strategy, but also being able to, like a law firm, they have many areas of specialty that they can promote, but they're not all their eggs are in one basket per se. So
good. So for you personally, when it comes to work-life balance, you touched on this a little bit earlier. How have you found work-life balance? It's a myth for some people, I think.
Yeah, I had to work really hard on that. I have 3 children under 8.
Wow.
And I sit on several boards in the community. So between the business and the community work and the children, I have a husband too. Oh yeah, that guy. There's a lot of juggling going on, and time management and basically scheduling is really key. And my secret sauce is getting a killer assistant. I have my right-hand person that she runs my life. She could literally take over my identity, easy. But but having, and she's been on and off with me for 12 years.
Wow.
So just having someone you can trust who can keep up with all of the moving pieces allows me to be really present in whatever I'm doing. Because that's the key, right? You can run from activity to activity, from being a mom to being a community leader to being a business owner. But when you're worried about what's coming next and the email you just got, and you can't fully be good at any one thing. And I realized after I had my first child, I got to be 100% good at something sometimes, because I felt like I was constantly being pulled in a million directions. Yeah, sure. And for me, that secret sauce was just an incredible assistant who keeps you organized and sane, and sometimes calms you down. Just someone who really has your back. And there's people that are just built that way. They love being that support. So
that's true. Very nice.
And you can't have her, but
you can have her. You are especially good at delegating and creating a team that supports business success. That's hard to do. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but it's not always easy to find all the right people for all the right places. So
give up control?
Yeah, give up the control, all of the above. So I commend you for that. If you had the last 10 years to do all over again, would you do anything different?
No.
Well, that was easy.
No, I wouldn't. There's been many times in my life I would have changed. I would have answered that differently. But I really think in the last couple of years, I kind of value all of those experiences.
Sure.
I remember my 2nd year in business, I got involved in a trademark suit where somebody tried to take a name similar to ours and start to play off the momentum that my company was building. And I naively, called them and was like, "Oh, did you know?" And they were like, "No, we had no idea." And so we got together and had this friendly conversation about how we were going to work it out. And come to find out that's not at all how that was going to go down. So
no.
I filed a cease and desist. They countered, and voila, I'm in a lawsuit. Now I'm a sole proprietor. I've just doubled my business in the past 12 months, but I'm in the middle of a nasty lawsuit that I had no idea I was about to get into. It was a year and a half long. We finally settled. I paid the person off to just keep the rights to my name. I had a federal trademark, but they had some common law rights, blah, blah, blah. It was a really grueling situation. But looking forward, 4 or 5 years later, that experience going through that lawsuit when the stakes were so small gave me so much experience in the legal realm of running my business that paid off tenfold. For every year, it was like I could look back at that experience and I just knew so much more when it came to legalities around my business. So all those things are blessings in disguise along the way.
It's true.
Now, in the moment, it doesn't feel like a blessing.
It's true.
So
hindsight just needs to come faster.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. So what do you think are 3 essential traits for entrepreneurs?
Determination, for sure. Being resilient, like not giving up, which I see those things as a little bit different. Determination, drive, and resilient meaning, like I used to say, you get knocked down in the ring and it's like, wow, that hurt. I don't know if I want to get it back up, but you get back up anyway the next day and you put your big girl pants on and you go back to work. And then adaptability would be the 3rd.
Very good. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who have an idea, but they're just in their very early stages of things?
Well, I would say, keep at it. I mean, we live in the greatest country on the planet. I mean, you can start a business from nothing. You can go from living on the street to becoming something amazing. So I think if you've got the passion, you just have to stay at it. It's not easy. Nothing worthwhile is. So it's just to just do it and be resilient with it.
I think that's great advice. Is there anything else I haven't asked you that you think is important? We good?
The only other thing that comes to mind is I was talking about those difficult situations that turn into something great. Back in 2000, I came into work one day and the websites we were hosting about 350 commercial sites at the time. They were going up and down and we couldn't, it was like all hands on deck, couldn't figure out what was happening. Well, we had gotten hacked, our servers had gotten hacked, and complete panic, complete fear that our whole infrastructure could come down. And it didn't end up being a malicious attack, which was good. But I had a sales meeting scheduled that day for someone from a network security company. And I called to cancel, and the person said to me, well, what's going on? And I don't know why I even said, I have an emergency with my servers. And he said, well, that's what we do. Can we help? And they actually got on the phone, and we were on the phone for 7 hours.
Wow.
And they actually found the problem and fixed it. I mean, I had a network engineer who was literally throwing up in the bathroom. It was very stressful. It was a horrible day. At the end of it, it all got sorted out, and the guy said, wow, you guys have had a tough day. Can I take you all for a beer? And my team and his team met up for a beer that night and turned out to be my future husband. And it's a great story. And so it just shows how your worst day in business can turn out to be, one of your best days in life. So I always think of that as like a lesson learned, like what a crappy day, but oh my gosh, I met the guy, So,
that's cool.
So anyway.
That's a great story. Very well. Good. All right, guys. So we have we have 2 more things here. We have what we like to call rapid fire.
Oh boy.
So I'm going to ask her a bunch of questions and she's going to answer them. These are pretty simple, well, hopefully, questions where you get to know Trish a little bit as a person, all right? You can decide whether you agree with her or you don't. No pressure. No pressure. No. And then after that, we have a little Q&A time. So if you have any questions for her, get those ready. All right, Trish. So the first one, Coke or Pepsi?
Coffee.
All right. Wine or beer? Or?
Vodka. Just kidding. I'll play. Okay, go ahead.
Do the coffee,
honest, those
do
are
the
honest
coffee,
answers, right? Yeah, true.
do the coffee and vodka go together? I mean, because... All right, just curious. Cats or dogs?
Dog.
Aw.
Used to be cats, but now I'm a dog.
We even get applause. That's good. Your favorite browser?
My favorite browser?
Yeah, internet browser.
Chad.
All right, we'll let you skip that one.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Your favorite vacation spot?
Oh, Kauai, because that's where I got married. So.
Oh, nice. Your favorite holiday?
Oh, I like them all. Probably Christmas. Yeah.
Favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby? Hiking.
All right. Favorite sport?
To play or watch?
Whatever comes to mind.
I don't do either. Hiking. I don't know.
We'll take it. Hiking. Favorite food?
Oh, I love them all. Favorite food? Sushi.
Okay. Like hardcore sushi, like the raw fish kind, or the, oh, impressive. All right. Favorite movie or TV show?
Oh. Ooh. Favorite movie? Oh my gosh, that's so hard. Or TV show.
Or one recently that you liked?
I love The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple.
Do you guys even know what that is?
All right. Name a band that you love.
A band that I love. This is so stressful. This is more stressful than the first part. A band that I love. How about a singer that I love?
Okay, yeah, that works.
Sade, my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Is she a band? No.
It works. It works.
Okay.
Musician. Okay. Any phobias?
No.
All right. You guys are welcome to test that later.
Yeah.
Can you do any accents?
No. Not good.
Not even. What about a New York one?
I could talk a little bit.
Okay. There we go. There we go. What is your most unusual skill?
Oh, unusual skill. Unusual skill.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I have any.
None? All right. Well, that's okay.
Do you have one? Unusual.
I think all mine would be dance related.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Peanut Gallery.
We're going to have her elaborate on that.
All right. Weirdest thing you have ever eaten?
The weirdest thing I've ever eaten. These are so hard. I have no idea.
All right.
Octopus, maybe?
Octopus? That's plenty weird. We'll go with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
What is the best compliment someone can give you?
Oh, I'm a great mom.
Aw, nice. When was the last time you tried something new, and what was it?
Oh, every day I try something new. Because I have kids. A cartwheel.
Oh.
I mean, I've done them before, but it's been a while.
That's pretty cool. Those are not as easy as they were
I
a
almost
long
pulled a
time
hip.
ago.
It was not pretty, but
I know.
did it.
I get it. All right. What profession other than your own would you enjoy?
Dance, being a dancer, professional dancer.
All right. What profession would you not be good at?
A dancer? No. A profession I would not be good at. A singer.
If you could have one wish granted, what would it be?
Wish granted. Oh, well, that my kids grow up to be happy and healthy.
Aw. And last one. How many pairs of shoes do you own?
A lot. All pre-children.
All right, give her a hand, you guys. Good job. You made it. All right, so we have a little time for some Q&A. Does anybody have a question for her? Easy. Okay.
You were mentioning before that, when you're young, you have all this energy, you want to run out of the gate, and then you said that through your experiences, you've learned a lot. So which would you say is better, or would you say both, and what would you take? Like, if you were the young one, what would you tell the young one? And if you were the older one, what would you tell the older one?
Well, I have to say, even though I say now that I slowed down, people would laugh if they hear that I've slowed down because my life is so hectic, but that I've been more patient, I guess. Even though I say that, I think being young and driven and building the business and going a million miles an hour, I wouldn't change it for the world. I freaking loved it. You know what I mean? And so when you're young, I think that's the time to do it, is to go for it and put everything you've got into it. I think that's what it takes, to be really successful. And the older self, I guess it's just to enjoy it more and savor kind of what, to slow down and appreciate where you are and what you have every day versus before when I was just driving. We have this on our coffee pot, my husband and I have this little saying on top, and it says, never get too busy. Oh gosh, what does it say now? Never get too busy to enjoy a life while you're making a life, or something like that, where you get so busy that you don't stop and enjoy what you have. And kids end up making you do that. You know what I mean? It totally slows your life down and has you appreciate the little things and all that. And I never thought I was going to have kids. That was all a big
Career girl, business girl.
Yeah. Never get married, traveling. I was traveling the world, making money, having a great time, and my servers go down. You know what I mean? It's just like, really, yeah. So does that answer your question? No, yeah. But I think when you're young and you want to go after something, you go get it. You have to work hard. I think it takes that.
There's a place for each phase.
Yeah.
Very good.
Now I just give a platform for other people to do that with a little less risk. You know what I mean? Which is really kind of
so
fun.
They don't have to start up a business and take all the risk of doing that. They can
and they can have quality of life while they're doing it, But people ask me, like, how would you have done this if you had a family? I have no idea, because it was my life. I didn't have children, I didn't have a husband, so I could work 24/7, and it was just, my cat didn't mind. Then I got a dog.
Came to your senses.
I still like cats.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh,
Sorry.
there we go.
Back in those early days, did you ever have any moments where you maybe doubted whether it was going to happen?
Oh.
And if so, how did you push through that? Was it just,
So every day, doubted. I still sometimes, you guys don't want to hear that, but you still, I think if you ever get so cocky and feel so confident, like I got this, you're probably in trouble. But, and there were so many times when I was talking about the boxing analogy, when I got knocked down, and particularly, had an employee steal from me that I trusted. I mean, that kind of stuff hits me really hard because I care so much about people, and I believe in them and I trust them. And so those type of things in business really took me down hard, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But you get up the next day and you get back at it, and then you have a great day, and then you have a rough day, and then you have a great day. Hopefully you get to a point where you have more good days than bad days. But literally, I just think that's the difference a lot of times between failing and succeeding, is you just one foot in front of the other, and what's the next thing. I remember being in that lawsuit, and I'd had barely gotten started. I didn't have the energy to go through something that grueling,
Right.
But I did it, and it paid off. So just get up even when you don't want to, you know?
I think it's kind of a compliment when you get your first lawsuit. That means you're doing lots of business, right? And there are great people to help us here in Phoenix, right?
That's when I wished I had like some contacts back in New York, like a Guido or something. So we could go. Just kidding, Jonathan. By the way, my new business structure, you know, the equity, Jonathan's firm helped put that whole strategy together. Yeah, they were like, "Don't you want to sell?" No, I'm just kidding. I think
Very cool.
Someone had a question.
Was there another one? Any other questions?
You shared earlier about being a specialist kind of in the hospitality,
Oh,
but
yeah.
also to be diverse. What did that look like for you?
Well, I mean, back then, like, you know, we've evolved now to where we can pick some areas of specialty to really focus and fine tune. Back then, it was more I had a lot of referral business because there weren't as many companies that do what we do. And so I really was taking all the business I could get. So we had a very diverse portfolio of customers at that time. So I actually joined the Hotel and Lodging Association, and it was interesting. Oh, here's something. Well, I don't know, you might not like the answer, but you know, at a time when there was technology associations, I could go spend my time there with my peers, or I could go to the associations where none of my peers were, or my prospects were, and I chose to go where my prospects were. So for that, I think that, you know, I got some flack for not hanging out with my peers, but I needed to go where my customers were, so I went where my competitors were not. And that's how I got a lot of my business, was just working with those associations and getting connections and doing the networking. A lot of networking in my early days. You know, I didn't have money to spend on marketing or anything anyway, but just relationships, you know.
Didn't you end up doing the Tech Council's website?
Yeah, we did
that?
for many, many years, yeah.
So she made her way back to the Tech
We
Council.
became a sponsor, absolutely, yeah.
Follow up on that. Did you fall into verticals by necessity, or did you strategically develop the vertical?
Now, the brilliant answer would be I strategically developed the vertical, but no, because all of our business has always been by referral and word of mouth, really. We just started doing some really deep healthcare work, and then we started getting referrals from that. And then I have a sales executive now who now is more targeted in it, but we did kind of fall onto that specialty, and you know, we went in deep and we're like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here in a vertical, in an emerging vertical. So.
And then a second question: has your husband yet told you that he was the one that planted the whole?
I'd be okay with that now.
It is a little suspicious of meeting with security that day, and suddenly you're hacked.
He's a smooth operator, that guy.